But it would be great to give the listeners a little bit more detail on what actually you did.
Well, we wrote software for recalibrating the engine management units in cars. We weren't official, so we had to do all the analysis work ourselves. We had no specs to work to. But basically, the software that we wrote, we sold to a dealer network that we created. These were both small and large tuners all around the world, and they would basically take a car, and using our software they would be able to recalibrate the engine management to work with new exhausts, new turbos, if the engine had been stroked or modified in any other way. They could alter the calibration of the engine management to cater for that and produce generally high power outputs, but in some cases our software was used to lower the emissions of vehicles so that they could be imported into different countries where the emissions regulations were stricter and the manufacturer hadn't done a special case for that country. We've also sold back to OEMs, surprisingly, which was quite strange.
Wow.
So ProDrive was one of our largest customers, and they produced all the performance packs for the Subaru Impreza. So
Wow.
that was all done with our software since about 2002.
And there weren't, and Steve, there weren't many people in your position, were there? You're a pretty small niche as a software business goes.
Yeah, I mean, there were other companies doing similar things, though not exactly the same as us. The early industry was always called chip tuning, because what you would do is you'd actually crack open the engine management unit, which was a small metal box in the car, and you'd take one of the main memory chips out of it, reprogram it and put it back in. Whereas our business model was based around, we will only tune a car if we can do it by plugging into a connector on the car. There's a standard connector on every vehicle since, I think it's 1996, the diagnostics port. And we would only produce tuning software for a car if we were able to do everything we needed by plugging into that port. So it became less of a screwdriver and soldering job for the tuner and more of a software editing, calibration, tuning kind of job. They could spend a lot more time on the actual tuning because they weren't spending several hours digging through a car to pull out the engine management system. For example, some vehicles, the engine management system is deliberately put in a place that's hard to access, so it will take you, say, 4 hours to get the engine management unit out of the car. And then once you have access to the engine management unit, that car will not run until you put the car back together. So if you're doing multiple iterations of a tune, every tune would be an 8-hour trip, 4 hours to get the engine management unit out, some time to modify it, then put the car back together, then see if it does what you want. And with our software, we could reflash a car in some circumstances about 20 seconds. So you could do far more iterations of a tune. And when you're tuning in that way, you do need to do a lot of iterations. So it made tuning these cars, well, in some cases actually successful, when previously it wasn't really successful at all.